All right. All right, it's 4:30. It's a little past 4:30, and it um, looks like the virtual component of our conference is up and running as well. So welcome everyone. It's really wonderful to see you all and have you all here. And we will now call our July 2023 Sustainability Commission, Flagstaff Sustainability Commission meeting to order. So again, welcome everyone, both in person and online. Our first agenda item is our roll call. So any commissioners online, please unmute yourselves. And when I call your name, if you're here, then please say here or present. I do want to make a note real quick. We do have some new commissioners. And I'm very happy that you're all here. But since I will be trying to say everyone's names, please forgive me if I mispronounce some people's names. I will do my best to. Pardon me. I will do my best to learn to pronounce everyone's names, but I might not get it right on the first try. All right, so Chair Kevin White, I am here. Commissioner Mary Ellen Metzger, are you here? Pardon me again. I don't believe Commissioner Metzger is here today. Commissioner Priscilla Boite. Yeah. Okay, did I pronounce that correctly? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, and again, Commissioner Dorcas Naa Aku Skika Kwarshi. And again, I'm sure I mispronounced that incorrectly, and I apologize profusely. Are you here?
It's fine. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, well, would you mind pronouncing your name for me, please?
So it's Dorcas Na Aku Shika Kwashi.
Okay, Dorcas Na Aku Shika Kwarshi.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I'm extremely pleased to have you as part of the commission. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks for having me.
Commissioner, and this is another one that I might mispronounce, and again, my profuse apologies for that. Commissioner Amy Wilkowinski. Okay, and I don't believe that she's present. And Commissioner Molly McCormick.
Here.
All right, so we do have a quorum, and so we are good to proceed. So thank you, everyone. Next order of business is the land acknowledgement. The Sustainability Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home. All right, next order of business is public comment. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission on any subject within the commission's jurisdiction that is not scheduled before the commission on that day. Due to open meeting laws, the commission cannot discuss or act upon these items during this portion of the agenda. To address the commission on an item that is on the agenda, please, if you're online, please use the Teams chat function. If you're in person, then please just wait until that agenda item comes up. The chair will then recognize you when it's time for public comment, and the staff will unmute your microphone as needed if you're online. Do we have any public comment at this time? All right, seeing none. All right, so next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. So for those commissioners who are new, we run these meetings largely in accordance with Robert's rules, which is a fairly widely used sort of system for running these kinds of meetings relatively smoothly. So for each item that needs a vote, we will ask the commission or anybody present if there's any discussion on that point. Then if and when there's something that needs to be voted on, one of the commission members will call the item to a vote. Another commission member, if they wish to, will second will second the motion. And if we get both of those items, then we'll make another call for any discussion. And after all discussion has run its course, then we will call the item to a vote, and then we'll vote the item either up or down. So the first vote for the meeting is the approval of last month's minutes. And again, for the new commissioners, I welcome you here. I understand that you might not have looked over last month's minutes, which is okay. But for the commissioners who were here last month, does anybody have any comments or notes on the meetings for or on the minutes for last month? All right, seeing none, would anybody like to make a motion to approve last month's minutes?
I'll motion.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner McCormick to approve last month's minutes. Do we have a second?
I think you were the only other person here last month.
Okay, well, in that case, I will second that motion. Any discussion on that agenda? Any discussion on this proposed motion? All right, seeing none, let's bring it to a vote. Commissioners online, please unmute yourselves. All in favor of approving the June meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say no. All right, the motion passes and last month's minutes are approved. And Bree, I believe you're the one taking the minutes last month and this month, correct?
Correct.
And I just want to reiterate our the thanks of all the commissioners and staff for doing that. It's a tremendous help.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, this month I have been referencing last month's minutes to just check on certain things. So it does. I know that this kind of thing can feel like sort of working in a vacuum now and then, but it does actually often come in handy. So thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. Next order of business. Again, we have 4 new commission members, 2 of whom I believe are in attendance today. So what I would like to do is give all the commission members and staff members in attendance right now an opportunity to introduce yourselves. And so what I would like you to do is introduce yourself, say your name, say let us know how you would like to be addressed. Tell us a little bit about your background, what motivates or has motivated you to participate in this commission. And Tia was also suggesting that we all mention like our favorite thing to do in our free time here in Flagstaff. So, or our favorite thing about the city. So why don't you say that as well? And just to lead by example, I suppose I'll begin. So welcome. My name is Kevin White. I am currently serving as I currently have the pleasure of serving as chair of this commission. I've been chair for since January, and I've been a part of the commission for about 6 years now. Really been an honor to be able to serve the community this way. I work at Lowell Observatory basically as a tour guide and one of the supervisors in the public program there. I have a master's degree in political science from Northern Arizona University here in town. I have a bachelor's in music from U of A in Tucson, and I spent about 3 years in Peace Corps in Ukraine. Kind of miss that nowadays too. But I love living in Flagstaff. I love living in a place where I can just sort of go outside and walk about a block away and be where I live. I have I'm lucky enough that I can walk about a block and just be in the forest. Also really love walking around. Walnut Canyon when I have a chance. If it's okay, I think at least from my perspective, we'll go clockwise, and so we'll go for this side of the table, and then we'll do the people who are in attendance online, because that's how things look from my perspective, and world might well resolve around me for this since these next 30 seconds. And then we'll do the stuff on this side of the table over here. Does that work for everyone? All right, Priscilla, go ahead.
So I am Priscilla 14 and I have a master's and a PhD in political science from NAU. My motivation for joining the commission is mainly to serve Flagstaff. I've been in Flagstaff for about 6 years now, and my favorite thing to do is hiking.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tia. I'm the staff liaison from the Sustainability Division to the Commission. So I'm helping to put together these meetings. I would say my favorite thing in Flagstaff is just like discovering new places to go outside. Yeah. What's your favorite place outside right now? We just went to Sandy Canyon, and that was a really cool one.
Hi, all new faces and old. I'm Kristen Conkle. I am a faculty in the public health program at NAU, and I've been on the commission since March of 2020, right when we started online. So I really like being on the Sustainability Commission because of the intersection between climate change and public health. I think it adds a really valuable experience that I can bring back to my students in my classroom, and I think I add a valuable voice to the commission with the public health lens. My favorite thing to do right now in Flagstaff is take my dog to Oak Creek.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenna Ortega. I am on the climate team in the sustainability office, and I am here tonight to very quickly, as I promised Tia, do the staff update for June. And my favorite thing in Flagstaff, I really like the skies here. I come from very low elevation coastal land, so seeing the skies here blows my mind every night.
All right, thanks to the folks online. Maybe, again, forgive me if I mispronounced this, Commissioner Quarshie. Could you go next, please? Oh. Oh, Commissioner Aku, are you still available? Are you still with us online? Okay, we might be. Okay, we might be having some technical issues right now. Modern age is replete with miracles, but those do come with their share of technical issues, I suppose sometimes. Councilmember Aslan, would you like to go next? Okay. Just to, if we're two down, that does make me want to check. Okay.
Can Sarah hear us?
Yeah, it's not just.
Sarah, can you hear us? Should I try muting us on?
I heard us earlier.
I know, that's
Yeah.
what I thought. Everyone's just getting a little beverage, perhaps, an afternoon snack. I don't think it's because I'm recording. Sometimes Teams is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna try just putting my mic on for a sec. Sarah. Answers no.
All right.
There we go. We're good here.
Okay, do you want to?
I think we'll just keep going around the room.
Yeah, well, we do still have a quorum.
Yes.
So yeah, I hope our online contingent can return to us in the very near future, but for now, let's move on. I agree that it's,
You, okay, sure. Yeah, I'm Bree. I'm the minutes taker for the Sustainability Commission. I mainly do just contractor work with the city of Flagstaff. And I graduated this last fall from NAU with a master's in climate science and solutions. So don't mind me, I'm just gonna be over here typing stuff, so. If you have any other questions about like minutes and stuff, you can ask me later.
all right, thanks. Commissioner McCormick?
Hi, everyone. I am a program manager at the Southwest Fire Science Consortium, which is at the NAU School of Forestry. And I've been in town off and on for 24 years now. And I like to think about plants and restoration and now fire. And so I kind of bring that to the commission. And I like being on the commission just because I like to, it's an opportunity to give myself time to learn about what's happening at the city. And I found that really useful. And my favorite thing about Flagstaff is the smell of the pine trees, clean air, and the great people.
That's hard to follow. Hi, everyone. I am Nicole Antafos. I'm the Sustainability Director. I have to be here. Just kidding. I love being here.
You created us.
I know. Yes. But no, it's an honor to be here. And one of the things I so love about the commission is the community's voice and the fact that community members are taking their time to contribute and bring that value to the work that we are trying to do collectively. So thank you all. And what do I love about Flagstaff right now? The smell of the rain yesterday. It almost like brings tears to my eyes still this moment. There's nothing like, and I'm from the Midwest. I never appreciated the smell of rain in the desert until I moved here. And it is one of the most beautiful, sweetest smells that is really difficult to describe to people. So thanks.
All right. Thank you all. Tia, do we have an update on the online situation?
Can you see the waiting room by any chance? Apparently a notice popped up, but yeah, the notice popped up on your big screen that said one or more participants are in your waiting room. Oh, it may be me. I was trying to get in right now. So okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I don't see anyone in the waiting room.
Okay. Thanks. You're waiting for somebody, so.
Okay.
Oh, you were? I said, no, I said, oh, you guys were.
All right, well, again, we'll hope that that gets resolved, but for now, I think we have no choice but to proceed. So the next agenda item is the Sustainability Division updates. Jenna Ortega, Jenna, that is, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Well, it was so nice to get to meet and even learn some new things about some of you that I've met before. I am doing our June update. I almost gave you all July, but we are back to June. So I'm going to go somewhat quick, but feel free to ask questions at the end or stop me. So I'm going to save the hot topics, but jump down. The Climate Resilience Project. In June, we had a work session, and that was hosted at the Bonito Community Garden. We learned about pollinators, we planted some plants, and we had a handful of community members that joined us. It's very fun.
Sorry, I was just joining to see if it was possible, and it is.
Yeah. Okay. For June, the climate team engaged with 395 people, which is awesome. For our advisory groups, our equity group did a little something different, and we all went to the Downtown Mile Safety and Connectivity Improvement Project public meeting. And this was really so that our group, who's kind of been interested in local transportation projects, could be informed on that project and see how we could maybe get involved. The youth advisory group is done for the academic year, but applications are open for next year. A fun and new thing in June was that our youth climate leadership Vista, Gracie, she mentored a team of 6 high school students from actually all over Arizona. We did have one local person from Flagstaff, and they came up with a plan, like basically an educational campaign for the carbon neutrality plan, because as staff, we have struggled with that, and they did a great job of helping us talk about the carbon neutrality plan that many people wrote on our team. So that was really fun. For sustainable workforce development, we have interviewed now 12 kind of leaders or business owners in the kind of sustainable workforce development arena. And this is really to try to kind of identify barriers as far as getting people into that industry, or what's even stopping that industry in Flagstaff from getting bigger. And so I think a lot of great data will come out of those interviews that are still continuing. We distributed $100,000 in the 22-23 fiscal year for our home weatherization rebate program. And that's an ongoing thing, but this year we did have some federal money to supplement that. And so that's why that number was so much bigger than years past. And we are now into the next fiscal year. So that is open for applications, and there's plenty of funding available again. As always, our community stewards are out there collecting litter in the communities. You can kind of see their stats there, up to a lot of service hours. This event had 90 volunteers. It's a sandbagging volunteer event for flood mitigation efforts, and they made over 2,000 sandbags. So amazing accomplishment there. Our stream stewards cleanup was in Sinclair Wash last month, and that had 30 volunteers at it. They estimated, I believe, 60 bags were cleaned up, and I just love all the pictures. They have a lot of fun out there. I'll give a shout out at the end, but our last one is next weekend, so you should come out if you can. In June, City Council approved the contract for our E3 grant, Elevate, Empower, Engage. And so this contract goes to the community assistance teams of Flagstaff, and this will be the 2nd year, and it funds projects that provide employment opportunities to people experiencing homelessness. And it's really to also help with litter abatement in our community. And good news, it got matched by the Arizona Department of Housing, so they also provided $30,000 towards this. Pollinator Week, the Mayor's Monarch Pledge, so many events in June. I hope maybe some of you were able to go to some of them. But I think to highlight, there's new pollinator gardens at Kinsey and the Murdoch Center. 65 youth got to go there and learn about all the fun stuff. Some other events were Be a Pollinator Pal, and that was to make pollinator water stations. Staff participated in Pollinator Fest at the Arboretum, and there was also an Exploring Pollinators art contest, and the artwork was amazing. I think it's being displayed at the library if you want to check it out. There were some quality entries. And let's see, we can jump to Green Schoolyards. Staff organized a meeting in June. This had representatives from Children and Nature Network, Mayor Daggett was there, and some other city leadership to really discuss how the city can continue to support equitable green space long-term through initiatives like green schoolyards. And Food and Waste team welcomed Fran, who I hope you all get to meet. She's so much fun. Every day she just makes me smile. She has a ton of experience doing some work with her thesis at NAU. And yeah, so she is our recycling education, and that's through AmeriCorps. So it's their ELC, their Environmental Literacy Core program. Coming up now, staff is launching a Flagstaff Recycles campaign, and this is really to just encourage good recycling behavior and reduce our contamination rate. This will include a bunch of fun stuff, including my favorite is bus ads on Mountain Line, like on the inside and outside. So keep an eye out for those. The Wednesday markets, lots of people have been talked to there, 140 in June about waste reduction and recycling. Staff is also working with Upward Bound on recycling and waste reduction. And we are started in June, but still working on recycling bin checks. And that's kind of to help with behavior change and some education around that. If you want to know about them, ask Fran. She'll tell you everything in high detail about bin checks. And so upcoming events, most of these are past, but the Fix It Clinic is this Saturday at 10 a.m. And the other one that's not on there is on August 5th, so Saturday. It is the last watershed cleanup series, and the Climate Resilience Project is kind of working together on this to try to get even more people out there. And so, yeah, we are going to meet at the Bonita Street Community Garden and walk over and do that kind of section of the Rio right there next to Francis Shore Pond. That was a lot.
Thanks, Jen.
Oh, thank you, Jenna.
So much.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Jenna about this agenda item? All right, seeing that, we'll move to the next item of business. All right, next is the regional plan update with the Flagstaff planning team, and Sarah Dechter, right?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
Great. Hi, everyone. I like that we have a good matching.
I
I'll move. I just had to point that out. We somehow picked the side and match. So I'm Sarah Dechter. I'm the Comprehensive and Neighborhood Planning Manager for the City of Flagstaff. So my job is long-range planning, not the permits and applications at the counter primarily, but I do the big thinking of like, how do we sustain our community for 20, 60, 80, 100 years? And what does the land use patterns and transportation systems and the water and infrastructure look like to be able to do that, given external factors and market conditions? So that's a really simple explanation of what my job is. I am leading the regional plan update. If you're unfamiliar, and I know we've got some new commissioners with the regional plan, is the general plan for the city of Flagstaff. The general plan is the only policy document besides the city charter, which of course is going to the ballot this fall, that actually is directly voted on by voters in the city. So all other policy documents go to council and the elected officials approve them. This is the one that goes up or down voting on the ballot. And so we adopted our last one in 2014, and we're in kind of year 2 of really working to get it up to date. We've been keeping it up to date. We've actually done a lot of amendments, including one for the carbon neutrality plan, but it's time to take a big picture look at the whole thing again, kind of shake it up and see what needs to be done. Last year, we were here with this commission doing a strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats assessment as part of our phase 1 of getting curious and trying to look at the regional plan as a whole. And so if you are new to the commission, you may want to go back to last summer and find that on an agenda and
look over kind of how this commission took apart what we have now and what it meant. And what we're doing now is we've been running collaborative processes and workshops in the community, and we are now doing what's called scenario planning, which is a resiliency step. We're trying to determine how to envision a future that is resilient to external factors that may influence how we plan for the city. And so we have a consultant who's helping us with that called Cascadia Partners, not the same Cascadia that did the carbon neutrality plan, but it's very similar, so worth mentioning here. They're out of different states. And yeah, everybody gets a little confused when we're talking in the sustainability realm, for sure. That group is about to get started on, we've been doing this process called scenario creation, and we're about to get started on this next really, really important step called scenario choosing. And I'm going to explain a little bit about that and what's important about it tonight. And then the third thing I'm going to talk about with you all is what's happening with the advisory committee and where we are in appointing those who've been nominated and moving forward with having a committee. We have kind of a group right now called the TAG, and I'll talk about that later, about how those two groups are different. So last year we had visioning workshops around August to October, and we did 11 of them throughout different parts of the community. And so there were workshops that had 4 real main activities. We asked people to come up with a vision for the region. We asked people to come up with key focal questions that this process needed to answer, and we're going to be using those when we finish writing the plan. We're also going to write answers to those 23 questions and say, how did the plan address X, which was the concern early on. So we also did asset mapping in the community planning portion of this, and we also had just a place where people could tell us the things that none of those exercises gave them the opportunity to express. And Mark Revis, our historic preservation officer, neighborhood planner, sat there and just listened to people. So that's kind of what those workshops were like. They were our first real bigger public event. They were all very small, no more than 20 people at them. So they gave people lots of one-on-one time with staff to have their questions answered and get interested in what we were doing. So through that and the online survey that we did concurrent with the public engagement that was in person, we had some key findings. And so clearly still natural environment, open space, sustainability, and character and heritage preservation, which are all kind of like things about keeping what we love in the community, were all highlighted in those meetings. But there were also a lot of things about things we want to be different. So diversity, equity, and inclusion. There wasn't a lot of diversity in the participants for the visioning workshop because we just put it out and saw who came. And it's a lot of the same people who show up to a lot of meetings. So we talked to people about who was missing and why and what we needed to do to make sure next steps were more inclusive. And we'll talk a little about how we've responded to that. We also talked about multimodal transportation and people wanting to see the big shift kind of be a part of the story of what we're working on in the regional plan. And then the last couple pieces were about the housing options and the housing affordability in the region. And then another key thing is people wanted to talk a lot about what does the plan really do? How can it help hold government accountable? How can we make sure it's actually something that is cohesive and people really have buy-in for? So those were all great things to talk about with the community last fall. And so learning through the winter and getting ready for the next workshops, we got started on scenario planning. So before I dive into what kind of the public side of scenario planning has looked at, like I'm always going, I know we have a lot of nerds when we come to commissions because I'm one of them. I love getting into the analytical, seeing what's under the hood. And so if you're interested at all in what kind of software we're using, we have Urban Footprint, which is going to be our sketch scenario planning software. There's about 4 software options nationwide that people use. This one's well calibrated to Western cities, and it's got flexibility in the right place for us to adjust multipliers and other factors within the model for customization to our region and Flagstaff. So it's there's a great website if you want to dig through it and like see what the technical issues are. I don't know all the technical issues. Staff has decided this is a fairly expensive piece of software. It's tens of thousands of dollars a year to maintain a license. So we've decided that staff is not going to build and maintain this model. We're going to have our consultant do it. And if we need it rerun, we can always pay to have the consultant rerun our model. But it's sort of out of reach, but it is more sophisticated than Community Biz was at the time we did scenario planning in 2012. So I want to break down the scenario planning timeline a little more. We've kind of been working on it in the background since about December. We first built what's called the base scenario, which is what does Flagstaff look like today? And then we went out to the community and through those workshops that I'm going to talk about, talked about scenario themes. Like what are the things we really need to understand, the moving parts of our growth, of our patterns in terms of pattern of development, density, intensity, mix of uses that characterize our growth in our community. And we, in the background of that, started looking at what does the future look like if we do nothing, like a no action alternative. And so we're actually a little further along in this. We're probably like right here, right before draft scenario modeling. And on Tuesday next week, the technical advisory group, which I'm going to talk about, is meeting to kind of launch us into that next step. So our technical advisory group and the members here listed in blue on the side is not a policy-making group. They are a group that is looking at how we are doing the technical work of scenario planning. Are we asking the right questions? Are we calibrating things that in the way that we should? Are we highlighting the right community concerns in the way we're organizing the public feedback we got? So they're not setting us up in any way to like, here's the policies we're going to adopt that came from these individuals. They're much more on the evaluation side of things. And we chose to do this because last time we did the regional plan, we had one committee that sat there for 5 years and tried to hash out everything. And that didn't, nobody who was on that committee thought that was a good idea to repeat. Well, one person thought it was a good idea to repeat. I have to. Some people can probably pick a name out of their heads, but there was one person who thought that went great and 19 people did not believe that was a good process. So we've kind of been more specialized. The tag has a very specific purpose on why individuals were asked. These are experts in a number of things in our community. Experts in our neighborhoods and our social fabric, experts in how we actually get building and development done, experts in our stormwater and transportation systems, experts in our immigrant communities and the Spanish-speaking community, experts in finance and how we actually get things funded in our community when it comes to construction and development. So they are looking at this from their expert lens and not from the bigger policy community perspective. So I always like to make that super clear because people go, why the tag and then why a committee? And they just have completely different purposes. The tag meeting on Tuesday is going to either be their last or their second to last. So they are kind of at the end of their 8-month run in assisting us. So one of the things they helped us set up, so they started meeting in February, and they helped us kind of figure out how to run these workshops that we did. And I like these workshops because they were not just put some sticky notes on a map. If you went to the NAU master plan open house last night, it was a very good open house. But they did like, you know, put some notes here and like mark this up. We actually asked people to sit with a group of community members and experience external factors that might not be favorable to the future they wish Flagstaff could have. So those 3 factors was our climate change impacts, low, medium, or high? Is our financial ability to fund infrastructure low, medium, or high? And is our growth rate low, medium, or high? And actually the latter of those is really important because this is the first time in decades that Flagstaff has had growth projections from the state that actually could be declining, flat, or increasing. So we really are at some kind of inflection point with migration. And really migration is the reason those 3 scenarios from the State Office of Economic Opportunity look so different. Is they are very unsure what migration will look like. They know our natural rate of increase in growth is declining statewide, every generation, almost everywhere. But migration is a real wild card with climate change, 26 120-degree days in Phoenix with water availability throughout the state. Migration's the wild card. That's not a surprise to anyone on this commission. And so we asked people, if you were in a scenario where you had high growth and low infrastructure funding, how would you make decisions about where growth should go and why it should go there? And that put some people are very uncomfortable, and kind of, we had to work to get some people to even play that way, because they're like, but I want to tell you what I want.
Yeah.
And we'll just get that. It'll be easy. So I'm a terrible, I would villainize myself in some ways, because I'm not going to make this easy on anybody, these discussions. They should be hard discussions. But we had 13 workshops, and some of them were in very non-traditional settings. Like, we met at a New Living at one of their mandatory residence meetings, which is a transitional living community and a sober living community. These are people who work at Walmart and car washes and gas stations in our community, and they got to play this game. And they were able to kind of play the game and give us feedback. And then the people who show up all the time at every meeting, and they are really in the know about what's going on at City Hall and with planning, they also play this game. So having gamification as our technique was really a leveler and gave us an opportunity to create even playing fields for people who are coming to the process with different amounts of information. We played it in high schools. We played it at a middle school. We played it as many places as we could. And so with our 13 workshops, and one of those was a Spanish-speaking workshop where our lovely translator, Barbara, who is our contractor with courts and other things, actually had to come to translate the Spanish back into English for the few of us that were there that were not Spanish speakers. And so we achieved a lot in these workshops. And part of that really was we had 10 community-based organizations that were represented. And they were all offered a small honorarium for getting people and creating opportunities in the workshops. Some of them accepted it, and some of them said, no, we were just happy to be a part of what it is. Some people took gift cards to give to the constituents who had participated, all of which kind of gave us an opportunity. And that was all done through Cascadia Partners. So those community-based organizations, and we have a list of them somewhere that I can share too, have all been really instrumental. The one you see on the upper right is actually our Flagstaff High School Native American Club. They actually are planning to host a scenario choosing workshop and be the facilitators at it this fall. So they've been very, very involved. So all this stuff, people putting little chips on maps, kind of feels a little similar to the way we did it last time, but it's actually a little different. We really ended up with two things. We ended up with these digitized maps of like, where did people play growth in the community? And then also discussion notes. And some of those are really valuable. So we didn't just look at this data of like, here's the no growth area, so that's where it's going to happen. We also asked the why. So people who wanted to emphasize affordable housing made different growth decisions than people who wanted to emphasize services to the larger region. And we tried to capture that as much as we could in the notes material. And I had two wonderful interns who turned around 60 maps and thousands of notes in 2 weeks so that we could stay on track. So hooray for interns.
Can you go back to that one map?
Sure.
I'm just curious, what do those colors mean on the map?
The darker the color, the more times that 1 mile square was included within an area where people had a green marker and they could draw a no growth area. So they said, I don't want to see any growth here. And it had to be like a 0. I think those are pretty common areas. Mount Weldon, Dry Lake Hills, San Francisco Peaks, Observatory Mesa, Walnut Canyon, a little Picture Canyon, and a little bit of the wildlife corridors out on the west side of the Woody Mountain area. So, and then of course the Cinder Cones and Sunset Crater. So all pretty well-known places. Though there was a little, probably the one to remark on is this area, which is a little bit of like the 4th Street and Sunnyside portion of the community of people put some no growth marks around that in some places. And some of that was specifically from our Spanish speaking participants because of fears of displacement and high risk of community member displacement in those neighborhoods. So that's definitely something that was unique. So you can't assume all of this is natural resources. I think 90% of it was, but there were definitely some people who were drawing those green circles to think about how to protect community and people in the community.
So was it played like regardless of if you could grow there? Because like obviously you're not gonna grow in
Yeah.
the forest or the national park, but there's green marks there.
Yeah, we really only put federal lands that were protected federal lands as like a green layer on the map. We didn't highlight state lands because people love to put green circles around those, even though that's not really a possibility.
Yeah.
As the Open Space Commission will tell you. And so we did try and like leave it very open-ended. And so
So
people,
no city parks and.
we had a few, but not really. I mean, we wanted to really see, people are playing on a 1 mile grid. So City Park is kind of too fine of a scale unless it's like Thorpe, which is a very large park. So any other questions? Okay. So what we heard from this was there's still a lot of support for like mixed use and activity centers. A lot of people took the commercial like squares and tried to fit them in their neighborhood because they want services and they want walkability and they want those things that get your walk score rising up when we look at the metrics. There's a little more mix on density though, like people sometimes wanted that without any increase in rooftops, which a commercial developer will tell you they kind of have to go hand in hand in a certain way. But really there was a mix of people who kind of wanted to push density into places in town and see us increase density, and those who felt it was spread it all out. So we still have that grow in, grow out mindset that we're trying to work with and understand in this process. On the transportation side, there wasn't really an opportunity in this game to talk about biking and walking, but there was a kind of a split on people who really wanted to spend budget on transit and transit focus and services, and those who wanted to see road network connectivity. And sometimes that was like the big roads out in, you know, that connect like 180 and I-40, which we know never pencil out because they have terrible cost benefit ratios. And sometimes it was like a little connection here or there. So that was an interesting part of what we learned from this process. And then, like we pointed out, land protection and protection for the recognizable open spaces was still widely understood. So we had visioning workshops, we had the Face the Future workshops, and we had an online survey this summer. And we're kind of taking all of those and pulling them into 6 growth ideas. And those are really, I try and tell people that those are going to get combined into these themes that have a more cohesive narrative. But right now they're kind of written like, okay, Google, do this, because we do have to put them in a computer model. And so we're taking those ideas from their meaningful context, trying to figure out how to create them for the computer to run the modeling, and then they'll, when the models get spits back out with results, we'll recreate narratives based on all that information. So that's just kind of where we are, is that the qualitative and the quantitative are kind of phases we're moving between right now. So one of the key things we did that's different than the last time was we created a scenario that we call the business as usual scenario. So last time we were kind of blue sky planning. We said everything's great and all the external factors are in our favor, and and it's okay if we just do a status. We didn't really differentiate the status quo from what we were doing in alternatives. This time around, we are testing an assumption that people often come to scenario planning with, which is we've been successful. And so if we keep doing what's been successful in the past, it will be successful in the future. That is a testable assumption. And unfortunately, it doesn't test well in Flagstaff. So we took as much as we could the patterns we've seen in the last 20 years, kind of what kind of land turns over, where it turns over, why, and tried to like replicate that with what vacant land was available in the community and what kind of underutilized parcels might be the right kind to see turnover. And all under the existing zoning. One of the key assumptions was no zoning code amendments. Everything's just the way it is today, and we don't keep working on the zoning code. We're just gonna live with the way it is. And then we applied our medium growth estimate from the state to that scenario. And it's not a great looking scenario. There's some key things that really are bad for the community goals that we've been setting, especially our 2 emergencies. So one, the median cost of a single family home in Flagstaff approaches $1 million by 2045. And unless we have some really big inflation numbers and wage increases, that doesn't seem like it's going to be very affordable. The second thing is, because of that affordability, the model starts to estimate that we hit the tipping point where over 50% of our workforce starts to commute in from further than our region. So that is places like Tuba City, Winslow, Loop, Williams, Camp Verde, where Flagstaff 10 years ago, when I moved here, people lived in Flagstaff and commuted to those communities because of quality of life. We hit the inverse moment where the opposite is happening. And I think that Nicole will tell you that will more than double our VMT for commuting workers in Flagstaff. So this is where continuing on the path we're on is not an exciting thing. And it's just as unexciting for any number of constituents in the community. So that gives us a great basis for saying the alternatives have to be profound enough to actually move the needle. And one of the challenges for that is if you're not seeing a lot of growth, then the needle might not move at all. The built environment is very slow to alter. And so one of the things to test in the next phase too is, can we do enough with the growth we expect to even make a difference on the land use side? When you look at like the big research documents, they'll tell you one of the key sustainability things is change in land use. But what if we don't have enough growth to make that needle move? Maybe we have to focus in a different way on different kinds of programs. And so from a sustainability standpoint, that's a really important finding that we have never posed the question before to figure out. So those are some of the key findings I think you'll see when we're done with the scenario model. I'm very excited about it. So even though we've done these big workshops, we've still been having touch points all throughout the summer with the public. From May 12th to June 2nd, we had a public survey that put up 23 policy ideas and asked people to prioritize them. We had a technical advisory group meeting in June. We have another one next week. We had a webinar that explained sort of everything we'd heard and understood and what was coming, and that's still available on our website. It's about an hour long, so you guys are getting the 20-minute discussion, but there's a full hour if you're as excited about how fun this is as I am. And then we also had an open house. We're trying never to have a virtual option that doesn't have an in-person option. We really just showed the first 15 minutes of the webinar and then put up some posters that people got a chance to kind of absorb things in a different way in case they process information differently. And both of those, we had about 60 or 70 people between those two meetings. And then the key thing is the scenario choosing in October, November, probably around that time, because every scenario is gonna have a report card, and that report card is gonna tell us a lot about it, and we will, and it'll have some narrative, and then everybody will get to weigh in. Do we need to combine two scenarios? Do we need to pick one? And that's when we really start writing the plan, when we have an endorsed preferred scenario. So that's not only gonna happen at workshops, but the committee will be in place, and I'll talk a little more about their role in that too. So this is what scenario planning has looked like. And when we're done with scenario plan, we'll move into the phase we call policy translation. So now we're actually writing a little more than the snippets here and there that we have been working on and sharing. And so the committee that is being formed is going to be the guiding public body for that. They will be convened before scenario choosing starts and will have a role in endorsing a preferred scenario. So they will get all the public feedback that we receive through workshops and opportunities associated with that phase and help us sort out how to build a preferred scenario and make that recommendation to council and the Board of Supervisors, who will finalize that endorsement. This committee is going to be appointed by the city and county manager. The nominations came from our elected officials, and they nominated about 34 individuals from the community. Staff then reached out and asked them, are you interested? And a couple people were like, no, which is fine. It's a big ask. But then we asked them, please write a letter of intent and tell us a little bit more about you, why you're interested in this, and who you feel you're representing in the community and what you want to bring as a focus. And so we've prepared a little staff report about that along with their letters of intent and sent that today actually to the city and county manager. They're gonna meet with some of the deputy managers and pick the selected committee members. The process will be that they hopefully will have a selection by next month, and then they can start meeting in September. They are going to be asked to make a 12-month commitment of meeting 1 to 2 times per month. Kind of at first, we'll meet once a month. And then when we actually get to like chapter reviews, which I'll talk about, we'll be meeting like every 2 weeks to keep things rolling. So it's not a formal committee, it's not a subcommittee to a commission. So the board and commission rules are not going to apply to this group the same way. Staff is going to help them set up rules and procedures that ensure meetings are advertised and posted and available to the public, and that the public understands how to participate. But this format also gives them the opportunity to like run their own workshops, have listening sessions, and do things that they couldn't do if they had to meet all the way we run commissions at the city. So all of those things are in draft form until the committee actually sits and gets to review them and decide. My vision for kind of how we're going to organize a staff material for them to look at is we're going to start, they've got to figure out what their rules are. They're going to need to set a schedule with staff that we can actually accomplish with our resources. They're going to have to go over scenario planning and what we've been learning there. And I'd like them to also set some writing objectives. And I say that because we ended up last time with 97 goals and 508 policies, all unprioritized, for us to argue over at every zoning case. And and even staff struggle to like, well, which one's more important here? And how are we going to make decisions? So I'm going to try and help them set some writing objectives that are actually like, how are we going to make sure this document functions the way we wish the last one would have? That's where your SWOT feedback from last summer is going to help inform that decision for them. Then they're going to need to develop a framework for the plan. We have a current framework that has area types like urban, suburban, rural, employment, and special districts, and then place types, which are corridors, activity centers, and neighborhoods. Is that the framework we want to use for land use decisions? Do we want to do it a little differently? That's kind of a Lego part, a key central part of our Lego build here. And so they really have to be strong functionally, and we have to then iterate it based on how the rest of the material goes. So that will also tie into which preferred scenario we might end up with. That might influence how we think of those central building blocks of the framework. And then they need to create like their key prioritized goals and policies and work on the other ones that they really want to make sure are included. Staff will then prepare actual written chapters of the plan and send them through an internal review and a legal review, and then get them in front of the committee, and then have a conflict resolution process if there's disagreement, and then finalize them. That'll eventually lead to us having a full draft for review by the committee, and then a 60-day public review for everyone in the community. And that's all going to be done in an open process, so people will get to see more sausage making maybe than they want to. But it is important that that's really transparent. We're not going to overlook things. There's going to be a really robust conversation. And we're also going to try and get it done as fast as we possibly can, so we're not dragging on for 3 years and everybody gives up. So that's kind of the challenges before us for this next 12 months in the process. So that's, I think, everything I had to share with you all. Here, I'll give you that computer. Thank you, Tia. And so I'm happy to ask any questions, answer if I can. Sometimes I don't know yet because we're not there, but that's what the process looks like.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Sure. When you say that they have to ultimately choose a scenario, the scenarios are developed based on the survey input and also from like the most likely situation of external factors of what's going to happen in our community. And then the entire regional plan is based on just this one scenario. So what if that's not what happens?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're trying to pick the most resilient scenario. The problem is, you can like Frankenstein scenarios, but then it kind of washes out your impact results. So, you know, it is, can we have everything? No. Can we choose a set of things for the next 10 years that we think will move the ball forward? Yeah. Well, I'll say maybe. Maybe that's not the answer. But it's the idea is to get people into prioritization and choice making so that we don't end up with what we did last time where we monitored a lot of stuff and it didn't do anything. We just stayed in the status quo. We basically took more than one scenario and put them together and then ended up with business as usual last time.
So the last plan was from 2014 and we're almost 10 years into it. You would say we're like not meeting the objectives that were set in the last plan at this time to be almost
none of them.
It's really interesting.
In fact, most of them have either been stagnant or moved away from our desired trends. So
I like this updated process.
I'm sorry.
No, I was saying I like the new process.
Yeah, the games are awesome.
Yeah.
Was the desired, what do you call them? Trends the same this decade as they were last decade, or have they changed?
we haven't even talked about metrics yet. That's pretty far down the road from where we are right now. I mean, housing affordability was one, we had ones on increasing the number of houses and mixed use commercial activity centers. We actually did okay on that one. We did better than we did the previous decade. We had one about extending the life of the landfill, which we've done very badly at and are moving far away from our goal. So, one of the exciting things the committee will get to talk about is whether or not we need a new landfill siting study in the next 5 years, because it could take up to 20 years to site a new landfill. And our opportunities to expand on national forest in this decade are pretty much null. So you want to see a community rip itself apart. Just study case studies on landfill siting. It's the thing planners learn never to want to do in a career at school. So
I have a, it's not really a question, but like and Sarah's, first of all, thank you. And a lot of this building up to get to where we are today, and a lot of conversations about climatic changes and risk and vulnerability. And the thing that we get a lot, and I know you do as well, is that the regional plan is a 10-year document, and conditions are changing so much more rapidly than they have ever before. And how do we own that in the regional plan? And do you have any thoughts that you can just share with the commission on it?
I mean, I think that's actually something I think we did fairly well since the last regional plan was adopted, because we've done like 26 plan amendments. And some people are very dissatisfied with that. I do hear some complaints like, why do we amend it all the time? But it's exactly for the reason you said, is there are topics on which the external factors influence on our ability to achieve our goals was changing rapidly. And we didn't need to wait to 5 more years, 7 more years. An example is the high occupancy housing plan when we were getting the boom of student housing off campus. That the market has kind of taken care of that a little, and it's slowed down overall. But now what do we do when there's not as many students living in Flagstaff with those same buildings? How will they be adaptable? And we addressed some of that in the high occupancy housing plan. So we have some tools to get started on that. We also had some clear neighborhoods that had been sort of, how would I say it? Some of the central neighborhoods in especially our Title VI neighborhoods in Flagstaff had been subject to the opinions of people from the outside in determining their future for a very long time. And we've made some changes for Plaza Vieja and Southside, and Sunnyside and Pine Hill Brandon are clamoring for us to get to that work with their neighborhoods as well. And so there's all these pieces of it that we just didn't let sit for 10 years. And I think that's the same thing we can expect. We're going to try and pick the biggest priorities for the next 5 years. And if we need to amend them, we'll do that. If, let's say we set 5 big goals and we met them in 4 years, we go, woo, yes, let's do a big plan amendment, a major plan amendment, and pick our next 5 goals. And I think that's kind of, if we approach it that way, it takes some of the, like, if I don't get my pet issue in the plan, it's not important out of the situations. These are the 5 most important right now. And yes, that will be always important to our placemaking, et cetera, but it didn't rise to the top yet. and maybe things will shift, and it will. So I think that's kind of where we need to be messaging that the plan, though it's gets this re-endorsement by the voters every 10 years, is always going to be a living document. And it's always going to have like take and give with how things are going in the market, in our natural environment, and in our social environment in the community. So that's why we have a team that actually like lives with it and keeps implementing it and helping other staffs keep working with us on it.
Great. Thank you. I have a couple questions, but I want to see if any other commissioners have any questions first or comments.
I have one more question, but I can go after you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kunkel. Thank you.
I was thinking about the initial survey was done at the end of summer or early fall. And then the game scenarios was in the spring. I'm wondering if you think you would have seen different results if you would have done like a cross section of months, because what is the most important thing that people want to address is kind of like has a recency bias, right? So like at the end of last summer, they might have been thinking about fires and no, we don't want growth here because of wildfire risk. And then after the winter, they might have been like, oh my gosh, my neighborhood never got plowed. You don't have services for my neighborhood, so you don't want growth here. But so do you think like doing that kind of survey or doing the game quarterly would make a difference, right? Like right now it's like, I can't afford groceries. So how are people going to move to Flagstaff? Because like of the inflation this year, right? So I feel like there's, just wondering if you think there would be a difference in the way that the scenarios played out.
Well, not really, because I think there's a lot of cross tabulation between each of those phases. We don't, though we have like a little summary report of each when we're pulling things together, we kind of are pulling from each different phase of engagement and kind of bringing the thread along or bringing along where it conflicts. I mean, there's going to be a recency bias this fall with the charter and the ballot initiative related to the NAH ordinance. And we're going to have to sort of filter out what of that was recency issues and what of that was, you know, meaningful engagement on how those things should be happening and where in the community. So we will, with that, we never get away from that.
Yeah.
But there's so many chances to be involved over the 2 years where we're really working on this that hopefully we hit enough of those points. We're probably still a full year or at least 8 to 10 months away from having a draft plan. And so there's a lot of more touch points with the public than just those 2 or 3 that we're talking about.
Okay. Thank you both. Yeah, I have a couple questions. One of which is along the same lines as what Commissioner Kunkel was talking about. So I can imagine like I think using the games and stuff and you know, asking people to prioritize, that's, you know, all very necessary things. I can see a lot of just general ways that depending on how the games and scenarios are set up, there could be intentional or unintentional. I expect completely unintentional because I trust you all, but I expect there could be, I could imagine lots of different ways that to introduce bias in that kind of system by virtue of, you know, which scenarios are presented, which choices people are asked to make, and the nature, you know, and the rules of nature and choices that people are asked to make within the games that are being presented. And I'm wondering if, you know, are there any systemic or, are there any systematic things that you've been doing to try to reduce those biases or address them?
I mean, one of the things that we did with the game was everyone had to pick their scenario randomly. So they weren't ever assigned. You didn't get to like pick the one you wanted. So, and then we also asked people to sit with others who they didn't know. So nobody got to play the game by themselves. So there's some regulation of bias in the fact that like the 4 of us would have to play together, whether we all agreed on things or not. And you wouldn't get to just do things because that's your idea. You'd have to explain your idea to the group and get buy-in. So there's it's not statistical,
Yeah.
but it's using those social influences to help elevate the biases that people had. And sometimes people did say, like, I thought I was going to come in and put things this way, but I ended up being convinced by this person that maybe it needed to be more like this. And so, and we didn't have any fights break out at the tables either, so that's always good. That's something somebody said yesterday. They go, I didn't see any fights at Sarah's meetings.
Yeah.
But I think that is, like, it created a collaborative play environment where one, it was kind of fun and it was timed, so people felt a little pressure to like talk to each other and feel things out. So some of that was in the design of the technique was, the one thing I think we would have done differently with the games is we would have made a way to win. There wasn't really a way to win the game, but people still seemed pretty satisfied with it overall. But like, that's the one thing I've learned since then. I was like, we should have had a way that you can like win, like you place all your tokens, you win, or something like that.
There's plenty of really good games, like the most popular video game is Minecraft, and it
Yeah.
basically doesn't have a win condition, so.
It doesn't have a win condition,
Oh,
yeah.
So, yeah,
And
so
another
I-
thing we
okay.
did is people could break the rules, and we
Okay.
noted how and why they chose to
Oh,
break the
that's-
rules.
that's
That's
encouraging.
a very important data point, is if
Yeah.
somebody said, I don't want to do this, I want to do it this way, and they convinced the table, we just sat there and like took notes and said,
Okay.
how would that have been? So there was always kind of an observer at every table who was not trying to influence gameplay, but was sharing information and making sure everybody got heard and taking little notes like, hey, at my table, something really cool happened and they moved this way, and here's kind of something we didn't anticipate.
Well, that all makes sense. I'm like, as a follow-up, so that addresses like, I mean, it doesn't completely address, but that, it doesn't fix, but addresses certain types of bias, but like, you still like, have a certain set of scenarios that you're choosing between. And, that selection of scenarios is, you've selected some and you've omitted some, and there's gonna be bias there as well, right?
Yeah, some of the bias though, some of that is not bias so much as selection of topics based on their functional relationship to the general plan. Like one thing our current plan does is it kind of talks about a bunch of things that aren't actually related to land use. And land use is like the central issue of the
Yeah.
general plan. And it's not that we're not going to discuss those topics or get to them in policy translation, but they are really central to the pattern and decision making, the way that what we did select was. So it wasn't really a bias. There was a filter on what ended up in the gameplay, and it was selected not only based on staff input, but the tag.
Okay, thank you. I guess my other question, and it's okay, I might email you with more later.
Sure.
I've been busy, but this is something I hope to be able to participate more in the future than I have in the last few months, but
And I'm happy to have coffee or
I might take,
set up a meeting with anybody.
I might take you up on that, thank you. I'll try very hard to, but, I guess my other question, and, this is just, I'm gonna bring up an example of this, but this is sort of, I guess, a general issue question. So, one of the big sort of factors we've been looking at for this is housing. And, like you were saying, we're on track for, housing to be, frankly already is, but, completely unaffordable in Flagstaff, and it's on track to become more so. From the looks, I know that nothing's set in stone yet, but from the looks of it, you're looking to produce a plan that will, have housing as a priority and try to address some of that at least. We do have the city of Flagstaff did put together a housing plan, about a year ago or so. It's, it has its virtues. However, bluntly, if we like proceed with that housing plan as written, in my opinion, we have virtually no chance of anything that deviates significantly from business as usual. So I guess my question is, broadly speaking, if there are conflicts between, some of these specific issue plans, like the housing plan and the general regional plan, the general city plan, will the city plan take precedence, or how will that interaction work?
Well, so not every plan that you're talking about is what we call a specific plan.
Right.
There are land use plans called specific plans, like the one NAH did.
Yeah,
for the health.
sorry, I
Yeah.
I didn't know the specific language, so.
Yeah. Those ones have to conform to the regional plan. And when we adopt a new regional plan, we actually write up a little part that says, here's how you decide what parts of those preceding specific plans to carry forward and which ones kind of move to the historic part of that document. For plans like the carbon neutrality plan and the affordable housing plan and the active transportation master plan, which are all not specific plans, they're strategic policy documents for the city, they can be updated very, very easily.
Okay.
And they should take the findings that we get from this exploratory process and reconsider them. Actually, I have a meeting tomorrow with housing staff to discuss how their projected need for housing units should play out, because they only did it up till 2030 and we need to go to 2045. And so we need to talk a little bit about how are we going to generate the number of units that should be placed in these scenarios. So we have really frequent discussions across staff on how these things go together, but a lot of those are what I call blue sky planning. They are planning for what we want and what we hope we can achieve, and they're very hopeful documents, but they're not playing the external factors very heavily against those pieces. They do somewhat, but not as heavily as we are trying to do now with the regional plan. So, they are hoping for like optimistic market conditions and maybe some federal funding, and the hope that maybe having this in a document will make us very grant eligible. And that's all great. We need to do that. And the regional plan right now, what we're trying to scope out is something that really tests a lot of that. So, the even documents that we're working on right now, like the downtown vision, are going to have that we hope we can incorporate as much as possible of that previous work. But if we run into something that really tells us that that path will lead the region off course in a way that's significant, then we need to have open conversations about that, both with the committee, who's going to help us kind of feel out that space, and also then with the planning and zoning commissions and elected officials on, yeah, we thought that was great. We have new information, and this process should produce new information that helps us in that decision making. It really is a decision making document, not a strategic document as much as you think about it. There's certain decisions, annexations, zoning map amendments, zoning text amendments, and dedications to the public for open space and streets that are all have like legal requirements to conform with this document. So that's where its teeth lives, is in that decision making, and anything else it says is really advisory.
Okay, that helps a lot. Thank you very much. I had another question, but I forgot, embarrassingly enough, and I think we're actually running low on time for this agenda item anyway. Are there any other, do any other commissioners have any comments or questions on this, on the current order of business? All right, well.
Also want to, be respectful of our other guests' time, but I would like to figure out either now or like how, if any way, the Sustainability Commission can continue to engage in this.
I think one of the key things as well, so if anyone has more questions for me, to get in touch, set up some time, we'll go over it.
Just remember my question, but again, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. I will email you later.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
And then the second thing is when we get to these scenario choosing workshops, invite 5 people who you think need to be there. And maybe people who wouldn't usually come to really be a part of these conversations. We really are hoping, you can see our participation's been increasing, but it needs to hit the top of the curve. And for one of these times when we get to scenario choosing, because it sets us up for where the rest of this process is going.
Do the 5 people have to be 12-month Flagstaff residents or?
No. Can be anyone.
All right, well,
Give my
thank,
students extra credit.
thank you very much, Sarah. We all greatly appreciate your being here, and that was very informative. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your time and energy, and we appreciate the work you do.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right, so I believe, so next item on the agenda, thank you again for your patience. Shelley Dia is here representing Town Site Urban Farms in order to ask for a revision to their plan for their use of our use of neighborhood sustainability grant funds. So the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Oh, do I need to do, okay. So I sent this document, but really in a nutshell, we received grant funding from U of A, the apprenticeship program, which funded an apprentice for the season. We had originally asked for that in this grant, and we had at that time didn't know about the other opportunity. And at the very beginning of the season, we received that funding. So we would like permission to reallocate that 2,000 that was approved by the commission for an apprentice or someone to work at Tough to instead allow us to get a larger water tank, as well as make the ends of the existing house a permanent structure.
Okay,
So it just seems like a better use of those funds because we don't need additional funding to pay for that person.
all right, thank you very much. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments for Shelley? Do we have a,
Well done.
yeah, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve, the change of, do we have a motion to approve the changes? Thank you, we have a motion from Commissioner Conkle. Do we have a second? All right, we have a second from, Commissioner, Boateng. Did I pronounce that right? Boateng. Okay, we have a second from Commissioner Boateng. Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, let's vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the changes to the grant request, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. The motion passes. So thank you both very much. Thank you for thank you for making good use of the grant money.
Yeah, you guys should come by sometime. Check it out. It's a lot of good stuff going on. It's we're just on Elm next door to Josephine's. You can't miss this. We've got big planters out front and a lot of activity, a lot of volunteers, a lot of participation. So good time.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Nice to
Thank
see
you
you all.
I there was something about the visual plan.
All right, so we're gonna have to, I think we just barely have enough time for everything else. We're gonna have to hurry a little bit. All right, so next up, Tia and I are going to talk, I think we're gonna try to hurry things on a little bit, but Tia and I are going to talk about neighborhood sustainability grants and what they are.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, since we only have one new commissioner, if
Yeah.
maybe we want to do it next month.
I'm open to that as well.
Okay, I think that's reasonable.
There's a
It's a
few
great
asks
idea.
I want to bring up now to get on people's calendars. So I'll go to the bottom of this presentation that kind of gets to that. And this is kind of the upcoming timeline for the neighborhood sustainability grants. Let's see, let's do this. Nope, that's fine.
Can you just increase the size?
Yeah.
Can you do the little presentation icon to the left of the increase too? Yeah, there we go.
Oops. Nice. All right, so this top left corner is August, and that's this next month. And so I'm gonna be, or one of the commissioners and I are gonna present to city council. Typically in the past, this presentation has included an overview of this past year's awardees and then announcing this upcoming year's application grant opening. And then August is also when the outreach and advertisement begins. And then September is when that grant application period is open from September 1st to September 30th. Continued outreach throughout that whole month. Typically in the past, we've done 2 grant workshops on kind of different days and different times to accommodate various people's and organizations' schedules. At this time, there's one on September 7th being proposed with one of our partners in beautification arts and sciences, who also has a grant open at this time. We partnered with them last year as well, maybe the year before. So that would be one of my asks, is if that is a time any commissioner could join potentially for, it would be 5:30 to 7:30 on September 7th. And then the second ask would be proposed times for a second one. That would just be for our grant, the neighborhood sustainability grants.
All right. Yeah, so I don't think we need to vote to table this for next month since we are talking about it. We'll just repeat some of it next month. But does anybody have any questions for either Tia or myself about this? About all of, either what she was just talking about or about anything related to neighborhood sustainability grants?
I would like to hear, yeah, at least today or in the next couple days, if anyone can join for that September 7th.
I should, let's see, what day is September 7th?
A Thursday.
Okay.
What's the date of the city council meeting that you're looking at in August?
That is a good question. Nicole, do you know when they get back? Is it the second or last meeting?
Let me just see what the working calendar.
So while Nicole is bringing that up, I should be able to help out on September 7th. Tentatively, but like 97% sure of that.
Okay.
And if you would like, if somebody else wants to help with presentations to city council, then I would object. But if it fits within my schedule, I'm happy to help with that as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm saying, Tia, you're just thinking, do you want a work session or just a public participation, probably?
I was thinking public participation. Not sure if you remember what Marissa had done previously.
Usually that first meeting back is insane. So the first meeting back, they're gonna actually have a special meeting on Monday, August 28th, and then the next meeting is Tuesday, September 5th. It's a little funky because of the holiday, and then there's a conference that's interfering, so they've kind of,
So maybe the 5th?
September 5th?
Okay. Would any, that, we
Potentially.
have two other,
I don't want to prevent anybody else from chiming in. We can, this is something that multiple commissioners could attend as well, I assume.
Are they
Um,
weekly or are they monthly for city council?
They are bi-weekly.
So the next one wouldn't be till September 19th.
Well, so their schedule's off, so then it goes to, I'm sorry, they're every week. Oh, I say bi-weekly. So, okay, sorry. Council meetings are bi-weekly, work sessions are bi, so they meet every Tuesday. We just call them different things.
If you wanted to, I could do the 12th, but I'm going to Mexico Labor Day weekend and I don't think I'll be in the right state of mind to do a city council meeting on Tuesday.
I'm asking for some time off for work the first week, the first like roughly week and a half of September. I'll still be in town though, just, so I should be able to, depending on the date, I should be able to make one of those if it's like within the first like couple weeks of September on one of those Tuesdays.
don't want to make you use, like chunks of your vacation
Yeah,
time, so.
Yeah, no, take your vacation. So September 5th would just be a quick
And
3-minute
I can
update.
do that, yeah.
We can take care of that.
Let's do that, because I'd rather do it sooner.
Yeah.
Thank you though. Yeah, appreciate it. But I still might take you up on the 7th,
Okay.
just given your experience, yeah. Okay, and then I was gonna present, this kind of outreach tactics document. It of course doesn't have the full list of all of the people that we have in, it's across like many, many documents, honestly. So I put like an outreach goal of educating about the grant opportunities and soliciting application with a goal towards new groups and project areas with lesser applications typically. And then this is kind of just a rough draft of kind of tactics obviously used previously as well. Just trying to flesh it out. So if anyone has any suggestions,
We could definitely ask staff liaisons for other commissions.
yes. I think it'd be nice if we asked.
Oh, you had it there, sorry. But staff
Well,
liaisons can push.
yeah.
For distribution.
Yeah.
I cut you off.
That's okay. If we ask the folks that got the grant last year, if they would share it on their socials, because Yes. they are not eligible to get it 2 years in a row. Yes.
That's a good idea.
I think we should make that a requirement.
We should definitely make it a requirement.
Well,
We can
I'm
even
not-
like create the post, right? we
Yeah,
could be
like, yeah,
have this
like
post
help
created
spread the word
or,
about the grant.
yeah. And yes, I agree, like making a post and saying, can you share this post or use your own photo from the project?
Yeah, totally. Love that.
Ask them to share it like 3 times. Maybe it's for some of the agencies in town that have like people that come to their agencies for services or whatever, like if we could have a flyer that had a QR code.
I was thinking that too, if we could like have flyers at like Flagstaff Family Food Center, maybe a few churches.
Yeah.
Have they ever applied? Why, I always send it to them every year.
No.
And if we have a flyer, I don't know how tenable this would be, but I've been thinking that some of the local schools might be good people to, both, we've had some public schools we've had public schools as grant recipients in the past, but maybe some of them would be either willing to help advertise or participate. And there's,
Definitely.
I don't think there's any official age requirements for the grants, so
Do we have to pay for radio spots?
Yes.
Did Media Radio get one of our grants last year or 2 years ago?
Who we're working with. They do.
Maybe they would give us a free spot.
Calf, we buy like a year-long package for the,
Oh, cool.
the,
We can still go on their community conversation too.
we can do that too.
What about posting to Nextdoor? I don't like Nextdoor personally, but like people like it.
People like it.
that's
We
a good
don't,
one.
I think the police department's the only one that has a Nextdoor account.
what is
Would
next door?
they share?
I
It's like a
don't know, but we
neighborhood
can,
app.
yeah, we
To be
can
like,
check
there's
though.
a loose dog, or like, I'm having a garage sale,
Yeah,
or
I lost, yeah,
there's a
I
creepy
lost, I
man
found the
knocking on
cat,
doors.
yes.
He's the best plumber in town.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know, I mean, like, people use it.
People do use it.
Or
I
like,
think that's a
like
question
that
for
buy barter
Sarah
sell?
Langley's team. There's been a lot of like, hey, we need to have a Nextdoor account as a city. And there's something limiting. So I think police, we'll check into it.
Thank you, yeah.
Great idea.
There are some other social media, like I think there's a Flagstaff like general information group on Facebook that I
Yeah,
forget what it's called,
That's a
but
good
we could
point, yeah.
post on that as well.
Does the city have threads now? Is that
I don't think so.
There's too much social media.
And Twitter's now called X, so maybe we should just delete
What's
Twitter.
Threads? I haven't even know.
Threads is like the meta Twitter.
Yeah.
It's like Zuckerberg was like, I'm gonna start my own Twitter.
Okay.
Elon Musk
Basically.
is just spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
As a person.
Understood. Agreed.
And I could also try to figure out the best way to share the like group of contacts that we have, and if you have any additions to that. Does that sound like something you'd be interested in?
Yeah, and if we have flyers, we should put Maybe we could put one in like Heritage Square, both of the public libraries.
We have our office has a list of fire locations. Or so we have that distribution list. Cool.
So we should probably move on to the next orders of business within the next like 2 to 4 minutes. Tia, so actually first, are there any further comments on what we're currently discussing?
Yeah, I'm happy to do another workshop. If we can like email
Oh,
back and forth
yeah.
to pick a day and
Sounds
time.
great. Okay.
And I don't know, is that first one, is that the virtual one or is that the in-person?
The September 7th, Christina from BAS and I were thinking it would be hybrid.
Okay.
And like maybe at like the East Side Library for the in-person location. So yeah, maybe doing maybe a weekend one, question mark, or like during like a lunchtime one.
Yeah.
We could brainstorm that. And then I know Jenna is also helping run those flood grants that I had sent out about. And she's like hosting office hours kind of for that. And so I'll probably put some of those chunks on my calendar.
Ooh, I love office
Oh,
hours.
yeah, that could also be a great.
We found them really
Just
successful.
drop it instead of a formal workshop.
I like
Yeah,
that
I would
idea too.
totally do that.
And then because we'll be able to also record at the workshop again. Yeah. Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, are there any other comments or questions about the current order of business about neighborhood sustainability grants in general? Again, we will revisit this agenda item next month. Next month is going to be packed. All right. Next order of business.
Maybe we could ask all of our new commissioners to read the grant before next month. Like read the application.
The guidelines.
Yeah.
Guideline stuff, yeah.
And
Yeah,
then like
the
that's a
application
really
is
good
what-
to
yeah.
come with
That would be a good.
Yeah.
idea.
versus like dedicating a quarter of the meeting to it.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
It's not super long. It's like 4 pages.
And Tia, maybe you could send everyone both the slideshow you sent me and also the grant application and also the scoring rubric.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
so yeah, there's a lot of documents that float around.
Yeah, but they're fast reads. All right. Thanks. Thank you, Commissioner Cockle. All right, next order of business. So a quick, one of the things we're going to have to do next month is we do have to elect in the fairly near future a new vice chair. Paul Byer, I am extremely grateful for her service as a previous vice chair. And unfortunately, he is not at the moment of being more a member of the commission, which means we will need a new vice chair. The function of the vice chair is basically to step in. Step in if the chair is unable or unavailable to basically do their chairly duties on any given month. What the chair basically does is prior to each meeting, the chair will meet with Tia and Nicole in order to determine an agenda for that month's meeting. And during the meeting, the chair will run the meeting and basically make sure that everyone has a voice, that the meeting proceeds as it should and fairly, and in accordance with basically all the rules and regulations and whatnot, which it's just mostly just formalities. I know that we have a lot of new commissioners, and either new or old commissioners can sign up, can be vice chair. There's no requirements on that. If a new commissioner doesn't want to, if a new commissioner wants to just sort of see how things run for a few months or whatnot, then I think that is completely understandable, and I would hold that against no one. On the other hand, if you want to just really dive in head first and want to take part in that, then please by all means. Normally the vice chair position is honestly really not very much work. If you would like to be involved in the formation of new agendas of monthly agendas, if you'd like to be involved with that meeting with Tia and Nicole and I, then you are very welcome to. I'd be happy for that, but it's certainly not a requirement of the position. One other thing that I should note, and Nicole says that she doesn't want to think about this for another few weeks,
Sure.
but it is something I feel I need to bring up just as just so nobody's taken off guard. I will be term limited basically out, or my current term ends in October. And that will be, because of commission term limits, I don't believe I will be allowed to be.
You're off the commission in 2 months?
Officially, yes. Now, I was talking a little, I was talking.
There's gotta be like some sort of extenuating circumstance if he just was elected chair.
So I did talk with Nicole, and Nicole says that she believes that the rule is that I am allowed to stay on the commission until the city council votes on a replacement for me. And if that is correct, and that if that, well, we'll see if it goes like it did last time, maybe. If that is correct, then it is my intent to stay on the commission until I am replaced.
If I may chime in when you're done, yeah. It is, yes. So the policy is that the commissioner can stay in an acting seat until their seat has been formally appointed with another individual. And I literally just met with the clerk prior to our meeting starting, because we have 2 recent appointments for 3-month terms.
What?
Yes.
No. Why?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have 3 seats that will, I know, be up in October, which means we have to have 5 applications on file.
But people that
If you
are in
prefer.
those seats can
Right.
reapply. 6.
Wait, sorry, hold on. Yes, what?
The people that are in a 3-month term,
They have to reapply.
but like you can, and hopefully you'll just stay,
Yes.
right? Like.
So we'll have more information. The clerk is going to be working on this, and of course I don't have this. So we have some room for
cannot
improvement.
elect anyone that's currently in a 3-month term into the vice chair.
Correct. I think that would be on a very bizarre premise that they don't get reappointed. I'm not worried about it, but who knows? But we can do better as an organization on how this is managed. And so that was my question, like, why wouldn't we not request an appointment for the 3 months and an appointment for the full term at the same time? So those 3-month appointments were not supposed to happen. We're not like.
Do terms always start in October?
Yeah.
Was that how that happened? I'm so confused.
Yeah,
We were shocked. We were watching.
I was running.
We were so
literally-
excited too, but it was like losing these people and gaining these people is so like bittersweet.
Yeah.
I was like running down to the
I know I
dais, like
started.
trying to. What is happening?
I know I started in March because I remember the pandemic very well. And I think it's on in my file that I started in October, like the pre-year, 6 months further into a term.
The roster is
Yeah.
not.
What happens if we don't have a vice chair? Is it fine to still have a commission without a vice chair?
100%. That is not a problem. It really is for someone to step in and to run the meetings. And we'll need to confirm if we don't have a vice chair and the chair is unavailable. We have at times in the past had a situation where the chair and the vice chair were both not available, and someone else offered to run the meeting. So, yes, so.
So where I was going with this earlier, is depending on the timing of certain things, most of which Nicole just talked about, it is a possibility that whoever is the vice chair may be asked to step in and as chair in whichever gap there is, if there is one between me leaving and a new chair being elected. I will prepare for that. I will try to prevent that, and I will prepare for that as best I can with whatever information that I am given. But I still suspect that a situation like that may happen. I would not let that discourage anybody from taking up this position or being or running for this position if it interests you. But just in the interest of full disclosure and understanding what you're getting into, it is I think it's a fairly high probability possibility.
I want to also inquire if there are any special situations that would be considered in terms of appointments. And yeah, like, can we delay looking for the reappointments just to allow longer? I don't know. I want to just see what options we have in this framework.
Yeah,
We
and
won't have a quorum anymore.
That's my concern.
Right. like,
Well, I mean, that's why they allow a commissioner to stay on to ensure that their quorum can still be made. Yeah, and so that's where I'm going with this, is like, yeah.
well, again, my intent is to stay on until I'm replaced. I love being part of this commission, and I'm sad at the prospect of leaving. And given the opportunity to reapply, I absolutely would, but it doesn't look like that's likely to be in the cards.
Have to
So
apply for a different commission.
I may.
There are like 75 of them.
Yeah.
Find another one that you're great at.
I was trying to remember that number too. What is the number?
I think
It's like
in the 50s.
Okay, that's
It's
what I
more
said.
than like any other city in the state of Arizona.
Anyway, though, so my current intent is on next month's agenda, we will receive appointments for the position of vice chair, and God or fate willing, we will elect a new one. Again, if you're just starting out and think that this is still something you would like to do, I would still encourage you to carefully consider it. You are allowed to nominate yourself if nobody else nominates you and it's something that you would be interested in doing. So yeah, that's one other thing that's tangentially related. I would just like to put it on. I would just like to put on the record my gratitude for the services of both former Commissioner Paul Byer and former Commissioner Margaret Steiger. They were both tremendous assets to the commission and to the Flagstaff community.
Maybe
And I know that-
Margaret to apply again.
And
It's weird that she would be offering.
yeah, so I do hope that they will both apply again. Paul Byer will be participating in one of the other in one of the other commissions or committees that the city is setting up. So I don't know how much time he'll have. And I can't speak for Margaret Steiger, but I do hope that she'll be returning to the commission at some point as well. But I do want to. But whatever happens with that, I do want to thank them both for their service. They were both tremendous assets and contributors to this group, and continue to be both tremendous contributors and assets to the community of Flagstaff. All right. Are there any other questions or comments on the current item of business before we move on? All right, next item on the agenda is future division updates. Tia and Nicole, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'll make this super quick. So when my predecessor Marissa was helping kind of run the division updates, I know she previously created like slideshows, and right now we are inviting staff members to come in to run through our division report. They just, this paper was like, virtual document. And I was wondering, what kind of format would be most helpful for these kind of division updates? And would it be more helpful to do a different kind of more in-depth update from that staff member, or, yeah, just throwing it out
We
there.
have to make that document anyway.
We do, yeah.
I am totally into that being what we get. I don't want more work. Like, don't like make a slideshow for the committee.
I agree.
Is it, yeah. Or would there be any other changes you would like to see, or do you like kind of this current format?
Is that document included in the agenda as a hyperlink?
I think it was this time, and you may have noticed that I just sent a link this time because I'm learning how to use what city council uses.
I liked the agenda this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, like, if that was also available as a hyperlink, I think that'd be great. Okay, but yeah, don't like spend time making it PowerPoint if it's only presented to us.
Yeah, but also if you share it, can we go in depth on a topic or two instead of a long, like someone just trying to read so fast and it doesn't sink
That's
in? And
like-
also it's like, I just read this. Is there like a more interesting way?
I mean, I was like hearing Jenna talk about her climate resilience and like climate advisory groups, and she just like, ran through them because that was like the directive I gave to her. But those are like her items, and so I think it'd be really cool.
Maybe that's a great idea, like whoever, so the idea with team members coming in and from full-time permanent staff to our full-time AmeriCorps is an opportunity for them to have FaceTime with the commission.
Yeah.
I do not want to ask them to come and like sit through commission meetings every month by any means, but how do we cultivate oh, hey, there's so-and-so from the sustainability office when you pass them on the street or you're at a function. So to cultivate those relationships and to provide an opportunity, especially for our AmeriCorps, to work on speaking in front of others. But I really like that idea that whoever's speaking really dive into their report.
Yeah, especially if we have access
Yeah.
to the document, like I can scan through that in advance and then also if I have a question.
Yeah.
Or they can just
We
focus
could
on.
also be available to answer any.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, we should
Yeah.
both know to be able to answer questions on the other items. Yeah, or we can always follow up. I think that's a great idea.
So then, yeah, maybe if they're gonna present on just one item, they might want like 1 or 2 slides.
Yeah.
Not
And
required,
they
I
can
don't
do it.
care, but like,
Yeah.
if it really would be like, 5 minutes on one project.
Yeah, it's better, yeah, whatever helps them tell the story,
Yeah.
because slides can make people stiff and then they're not really telling the story. Like,
Okay,
I
yeah,
can't
that's true.
meet you and remember you if we're not like
Yeah.
alive together.
But I like the pictures that are in the document, so even if they just had a couple pictures they wanted to feature, well, they talked about whatever their project was. I'm excited to get to know your Vista.
One of your Vista babysits my dog sometimes.
Fran?
Gracie.
Yeah, we have, we will have 5 starting next month.
Are any of them
Wow.
public health or are they all through the literacy?
We haven't, I don't think we followed through on the public health opportunity, which I would love if we did.
Well, our big cohort comes in the spring, so.
All right.
Can I ask one other question?
Of course.
Totally not related. Historically, when we went to virtual, the commissioners used to have nameplates. That was something that,
That made me feel very special.
and that's I suggest we wait until later this fall, until all the chaos of our appointments settles down. But is that something, I mean, I wonder if we could do the wood ones that have, and so they're just not like this little plastic, little slidey thing, but something that is made locally of recycled lumber that can have like a symbol on it. When someone's done, they wanted it.
Yeah, might encourage people to show up like in person.
I'm gonna do it. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, yeah, I think we're running short on time. So, we're gonna skip the council communications item agenda and we will table that for a later date. I don't honestly have a whole lot new to talk about it that we haven't talked about in previous months anyway. Next is to and from. So, at this point, any commission member or staff member or member of the public who has anything that they just sort of think that the commission should know about, any upcoming events, accomplishments that you would like to brag about, et cetera, then now is the time set aside for that. Nicole, are you?
I'm saying I have some stuff that I want to wait.
Okay. Well, I don't see anybody else, so.
Okay. So I'm really excited to announce that the city of Flagstaff, along with a number of other jurisdictions in the state of Arizona, we were awarded a Department of Energy grant, along with the state of New Mexico, to accelerate building codes in both states. Yeah, Flagstaff's role in this, because our codes are further ahead than a lot of other communities in the state of Arizona. And we know that our flight path is to have carbon neutral building codes by 2030. Our element of the grant is that we are going to focus on building capacity in the contractor and development sectors by offering training far in advance of the adoption of new advanced codes. So the idea would be like, nope, we're gonna help people get certified for free. We're really trying to build capacity before codes change, because historically it's like, slam, we're changing the code, now you have to deal with it. So we're gonna, hopefully that funding will help us learn a lot and set some new trends. And then we submitted for 2 EPA grants, 2 really exciting, one on resilience hubs and the other for essentially large-scale commercial composting for forest byproduct materials. And we've made it through the first round of both of those grants. So cross everything, cross it. And we submitted for a Department of Energy building up prize for a really kind of unique project. It was a very bizarre project. And the prize itself was really interesting, but it was through the National Renewable Energy Labs, and we'll find out in September. So this fall, hopefully some Let's Get Energy towards Flagstaff. The prize is $400,000, and you can do anything you want with it. The prize was announced on social media, so like at first we're like, is this real? And I had to call my friend at Emerald and be like, is this for real? And they're like, yeah. I was like, so we've kind of built it's really to ramp up electrification and the installation of heat pumps. And so what we're trying to do is a combined trajectory with the award money. But if you win the first prize, then you get entered into the second prize category, which is more money to actually implement your project. So you can do whatever you want with the prize money. If you get into the next phase, you actually get money to actually implement your concept that you submit. But this was a really cool project, focusing on working with Native youth and development training for the contractor sector to help with electrification. So we're potentially, through the funds, partnering with the community college and some groups in town. And then also we will seed some money for updates on the future Indigenous, the ICCC, Indigenous Cultural. Oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking. End of the day, long day at Park Park.
Cool. That's really exciting. Thank you, Nicole.
Yeah, so cross it all.
Yeah, and I don't know, I feel like it's worth sort of highlighting and reiterating at moments like this. Flagstaff really is a state and national leader in climate and sustainability. And that's I think that's it is and can be a pretty big point of pride for a community. And as we're seeing with this, it occasionally have material benefits as well. I mean, it always has material benefits, but, it's worth highlighting right now. It's just really exciting.
Indigenous Community and Cultural Center. Thank you. I just remembered what ICC stood for too.
Oh, is that the new thing that they're building?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a fleet shop for 70 years, so it's got a lot of work. And so any type of money, when there's no money.
Weren't they one of our grant applicants last year? Or was that, or am I thinking of something else? No, I am thinking of something
Yeah,
else.
because the ICCC is actually a city, it's
Okay.
currently a city building.
Cool.
It's right near our office, but, yeah, so good stuff. Hopefully there'll be some good funding that comes into the community.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, hopefully, it already is great, but hopefully we'll get some more of that as well. Is there any other to and from? All right, final agenda item is future agenda item requests. This is where commissioners just have a few moments to request things that they would like to put on agendas of future meetings. If there's something that you think about that you don't want to bring up right now, or you forget to bring up right now, then you're certainly welcome to email Tia, and we'll talk about it at our next agenda making meeting. But it is sort of considered best practice to bring it up right now if you can. So are there any future agenda item requests? Commissioner Conkle?
This not really an agenda item, but a request. I thought it was a really nice offer to go to Tough Farm, and I think it would be lovely if once every month or two we could organize a visit of a site that we gave a grant to.
I think that's a wonderful
And
idea.
I mean, it would just be optional, right? Like we wouldn't have to go, not like during meeting time, because I know
Yeah.
meeting time's really precious, but like on the second Tuesday of the month or Thursday of the month from 4:30.
Site visit, yeah.
Because in theory, we're all kind of available at this time on Thursdays.
Well, and I think how lovely to just close the loop.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
those, on the grants. We used to actually do tours of the community as our meetings. So we had
That
to
sounds
stop.
fun.
I know, we had to
Yeah.
stop doing that. Because it was for a public meeting, open meeting law and such, but it was to help educate, we get to do all these different things.
All right, I think that's a wonderful idea. Thank you. Any other future agenda item requests? All right, hearing none. Thank you all for your time, knowledge, and energy. It really is a great value to our community. And those of you who are maybe watching this video who are, thank you for watching, and thank you for your time and energy as well. We'll look forward to meeting you soon. And that said, this meeting is adjourned. Everyone take care, be well, and I'll hope to see you all in August.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So nice to see everyone. So nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
You for more than 3 months.
Yeah.
Is that just a city policy or is that in the commission code that we've been talking about updating?
I was thinking maybe, well, when I saw it, I thought maybe 2 people had to leave and then the time went up. So then you get me and the other person to just replace them. So
It's,
that was what
You
I
had
was
empty seats for.
yeah, it's kind of a
Yeah.
weird situation
Yeah.
because
It was very unique.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh,
I
no,
wanna
just,
get to it.
that we had people leave, but we were also down like 3, we were also down like 2 or 3 under what we're supposed to have as a commission.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So
So, and just for, I think, my proposal to the, I stopped recording. Okay. I should have done that.